Tag TV and Tag Radio. Be seen and heard by both technology users and technology producers throughout the state of Georgia and around the world. Low cost, big benefits, powerhouse online branded video and audio has arrived. Tag TV, Tag Radio, there's a lot more to know. Ever wonder how students in elementary and high school today ever learn anything about work readiness or entrepreneurship or financial literacy skills that they'll need to experience the realities and opportunities of, say, work and entrepreneurship in the 21st century global marketplace? Remember Junior Achievement? Today's JAA has impacted more than 4.2 million U.S. students in over 183,000 classrooms, and that was just last year alone. Greetings, everyone. It's Friday, August 16, 2013, and this is Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. I'm your guest host, Frank Baia. Up to the Tech Talk, Junior Achievement of Atlanta, its exciting Discovery Center, and the JA Virtual BizTown and Financial Park real-world experiences. As we speak with JA Vice President for these exciting initiatives, Niambi Brown, a teacher for 4 years, 2 of which were with Teach for America in Baltimore. Niambi has worked with Junior Achievement of Georgia for the past 5 years, managing in-class programming. She holds a master's degree in education with a focus in curriculum design and instruction. Founded in 1943, the Metro Atlanta District in the single school year of 2011-2012 served more than 115,000 students free of charge. BizTown and Financial Park, all at the JA Discovery Center. It's all about work readiness, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy skills, and about our country, our state's ability to remain competitive in the 21st century global marketplace. It's a unique look at today's JA that will leave you saying, wow, I didn't know that, as we Tech Talk today's students in tomorrow's world with Junior Achievement Vice President Niambi Brown. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. Niambi, welcome to Tech Talk.
Oh, thanks, Frank. Thanks for having me.
You know, one of the things we talk about is constant change. In fact, I think we talk now about successive transformation. Change doesn't stay static long enough for there to be a standard to move from. And the reason I say that is it's happening on every level, and obviously it's happening in the what we would all perceive as junior achievement. I'm sure there's a lot of new things and exciting things that are happening. I know today one of the things that we're really interested in focusing on is the whole concept of the Discovery Center, but also talk a little bit about JA's BizTown as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are really excited just in general about the change and the changes kind of happening in the atmosphere. I used to be a teacher myself, and so just the idea of kind of meeting the millennial learner and really diving in and kind of figuring out how do we meet their needs means that we can't stay stagnant. We have to in some way stay creative and innovative in what we do, and so we really thrive on that in Junior Achievement, and we're excited to be partners with the districts throughout the Metro Atlanta to really figure out how do we really stay up and current and really meeting the needs of the students. So we're really excited about BizTown and Finance Park happening at the Discovery Center, and how do we really kind of immerse kids inside of that change.
I think one of the exciting things is that, you know, we in technology now, actually gamification, virtual reality from gaming business has entered into the pervasive now. Enterprise deals with it, retailing deals with it, banking. They have what they call analytics and big data. And it's all centered around what used to be laughed at as a video game that a kid sat over in the corner with an Xbox and played with. It's kind of interesting that the Discovery Center, and especially the BizTown experience, isn't it? It's more of a hands-on type situation. It's a real-world, write out a check, deal with the actual physical aspects of doing business and actually conducting yourself in a traditional marketplace.
Right. It's their city. Like, we designed it with the students in mind, and we designed it, for lack of a better word, with a Disney-esque feel, because we realize that when you are dealing with this population of students and when you're dealing with kids in this age because of gaming, you have to really create some sense of reality for them. They have to be able to actually go inside of a space and feel that it's real, and we really wanted to give them the touch and the feel of a real world. So literally, they go into a city and they run it. So they are doctors and lawyers and dentists and all that other good stuff, and they are also CEOs and, CFOs and things like that, and they get paid, and they literally are running the city, and they have an opportunity to touch and feel that experience versus us just saying, one day you're going to need to know how to balance a checkbook, or one day you're going to need to know, how to fill out an application, and one day you're going to have to work inside of a team, and all of those things. Instead of bringing that one day, we actually are bringing it 2 days. And so we built the city with that in mind.
So they learn pretty quickly that just because they have checks doesn't mean that they have money.
Absolutely. One of my favorite things of the actual simulation, we call them simulations because the kids are simulating an experience. And so one of my favorite things of the simulated city is that NCR has actually helped us with a point-of-sale system. And so the students get paid, and they have the money deposited into their check, and they'll need to purchase items throughout the day. And when they don't have the correct amount in their account, it will pull up in the system insufficient funds. And so I've heard that other people have experienced that. I personally have not experienced
Me neither. I wouldn't understand the concept at all.
Anything about that. But no, really, they get an opportunity.
Well, that's fascinating, though. Sadly, and I know there's a lot of great parents that spend a lot of time with their kids and get the kind of training and exposure. But on the other side of it is there's a lot of times when, unfortunately, just through a busy schedule and the assumption that it's somehow or another osmosis into the psyche that you learn these things, that it's really good to know that there's something like this. Talk a little bit about how do you get engaged with it. If I'm first off, is what are the K through 12? Obviously, you don't start that young, but you start at what level of classes and or age, and how does a young child get involved?
Well, I'll start, if you will, forgive me for just a second, to talk about junior achievement and just kind of our impact in general and kind of how we were kind of bridging the gap of this is that with JA, we actually operate K through 12. So we are interested in making sure that a child has an experience with junior achievement from elementary school all the way to high school. And so it's a very different experience. Financial literacy looks very different when you're in kindergarten than it does when you're graduating from high school, because you're basically learning tools in high school and you're learning coin recognition in elementary school. So it's a little different depending upon where you are, but our really focus is now on middle school because we get that it's really the point of attrition, that kids make a decision on whether or not they're going to stay in school and the need for school around 8th grade. And so we really wanted to make sure we showed an impact or help kids see the relevancy of school in middle school. So what we're actually doing is working with middle school students throughout Metro Atlanta. The districts that are actually in partnership with us is Atlanta Public Schools, DeKalb Public Schools, Fulton County, Marietta City are all bringing their middle school students to participate inside of this, inside of the simulation. We also have a couple of public charter schools and public private schools that will also be a part of the simulation, but the bulk of who's coming is going to be the students from those metro areas. And in total, we're looking to impact around 30,000 middle school students throughout the simulation.
Wow. Well, you've mentioned it a couple of times. Be more specific. The concept of BizTown breaks into two groups, if I'm understanding correctly, of age and classes, what grades they're in. And it's sort of a boot camp. I mean, it's real intensive. Happens over a short period of time, or is it several weeks, or how does it work?
It starts in the classroom. So what happens is that we actually, which is one of the things that I'm most excited about, is we actually, part of the partnership with these school districts is that we actually provide curriculum for the teachers to train the students to prepare them for the day. Inside of that, there are about 18 to 20 lessons that the teachers actually teach the students beforehand. Because to your point, there are some things that we don't want to take for granted that they understand that, okay, this is how you fill out a deposit check. This is how you apply for a job. This is what an actual classified looks like. So all of those things we actually want to make sure that the students have some basic understanding before they come into the simulation. And then the simulation, for lack of a better term, is a culmination of that actual learning experience for the students. So we really give them the relevancy inside of that space.
That's really, one of the things that's happening now with education, and I know you're a specialist in this area, but there's a term now called flip education, where they actually have the kids study at home, do their homework in advance of the class, and then come into the class already prepared to have a discussion or a collaboration with their other students and the teacher. Kind of sounds sort of like that, sort of a flip environment where in this case, obviously, they're getting all the background and prep in the classroom, but by the time they come to the experience, they've pretty well know kind of what to expect.
Absolutely. Well, because what you want to do is that you don't want to spend your time trying to educate the child about just the basics of it. You want to actually kind of, back
give
in
them
the
the
day,
experience.
Absolutely. Well, back in the day, it was the sage on stage, right? So it was just, I'm going to now impart all my knowledge to you, and you just listen and take all that in. Versus now, it's more, let's be an active participant in learning, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do inside of the space as well. So the teachers would have kind of taught the basics for the students, and then they come into the actual simulation space, and in that space, volunteers help the students make the actual academic or the connection. So they actually get an opportunity to say, oh, in order for me to actually, like, this is what teamwork looks like. Oh, this is what banking looks like. Oh, so they're really able to actually see those connections inside of those spaces, and then the teacher kind of operates as observer of that and helps the volunteer make that connection. There are 18 stores that are, well, let me back up. There are two sides to the Discovery Center. There's the JA BizTown side. Is it okay if I kind of move into that?
Yeah,
JA
sure.
BizTown side. And then there's the JA Finance Park side. So if you think about the JA BizTown side, it's more of a macroeconomic look at economy. So literally the kids look at resources. They look at the flow of resources, and then they look at themselves as human resources, right? So they get an opportunity to kind of see like, oh, okay, this is what I actually need to do to run my life, and these are how I operate as an employee and as an employer. Part of the day they're actually spending money, and part of the day they're making money, and then part of the day they're beginning to see how businesses actually operate. So they literally go about taking out a business loan, and when they take out that business loan, so let's say it takes $200 or $300 to run that day, they then go about trying to make a profit. And some of them actually are able to do it, and some of them learn a hard lesson along the way. But the volunteer actually is there to help them facilitate that. And so
that sounds great, though.
Isn't that cool?
Isn't it cool? Yeah. Real.
I have to admit, I'm a fan.
Well, I'm thinking I need to be a student. It sounds like maybe if I learned some of this earlier on, I wouldn't be doing Tech Talk. No.
Right.
Well, you mentioned a couple of the activities, but maybe get more specific. I'm still trying to get a grasp on the process. Number one, I get the idea. I use the term flip, but they're learning a lot prior to ever going to the actual simulation, as you call it. But now it's a case where is it 4 hours, 8 hours? Does it happen in groups of X number, and they go through the process and evolve through a series of, say, for example, loops of people going through? What's the physical process?
What happens is there are 150 students that can actually be facilitated on one side. It's 300 in total, but about 300 students will go through the space on a day-to-day basis. They'll operate in teams, and those teams are represented by businesses. So one person may be a Chick-fil-A store, or a team may be a Chick-fil-A store, then be a UPS store or a Delta store, or it depends on the store that they're actually going into. And so they start their day, and it is a 4 to 4.5 hour day, depending upon Atlanta traffic and the students getting to us. Yeah. But between a 4 and a 4.5 hour day, and they literally start their day by applying for their business loan. Then they actually break apart strategy. They do the setup. They set up merchandise. They set up retail. Then they create the business kind of implementation plan, and then they go about the business of actually running a business. And then they have different check-in points, so different staff meetings to actually see how close they are to actually paying back their business loan. And then they actually are building strategy. So they may say, oh, you know what, we need to actually increase this price because in order for us to pay back our loan, we're going to need to actually sell this item at this price. Or they may say, uh-oh, we're not selling anything. Let's lower our prices and let's actually look at our advertising strategy. So they literally are going about figuring that out. And then throughout the day, there's a mayor inside of the town, so they're voting and they're doing all the kind of the democratic processes that kind of happen around us, and they are recycling, and they literally are running the city inside that space. And then at the end of the day, that we actually are doing a check to say, okay, what businesses actually pay back their loans and what businesses did not.
I'm absolutely amazed. How long have you been doing this?
Oh, well, we'll actually be opening our doors in September, but there are about 25 of these around the nation.
How long have they been doing? How long have they been around?
Oh gosh, that's a great question.
Well, I don't want to put a stump, because I'm thinking a lot of our listeners and a lot of our members may be aware of this, because I know a lot of them are active in junior achievement. But I think this is so exciting and so right on. I can't think of a business leader today, especially anyone with an entrepreneurial spirit, and nowadays I think even the people that are running enterprises have to think entrepreneurial, have got to see something like this as just a quantum leap into reality of what, they're looking for human resources. They want that kind of prepared individual. I can remember the first time dealing with the technology. We have a TAG Ed, which is an education foundation under the Technology Association, and a couple of years back was the first time that we had done some awards and some scholarships to like 10th graders and 11th graders. And they came in and they had their own companies. They had a president, vice president, marketing director. I mean, and I'm thinking
we could have been somebody, right, if we would have had this opportunity.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to. I'm thinking I'm saving up cans or something. I don't remember exactly. No, I think I sold candy on a wagon like everybody. I think that one was a traditional play. Well, now because I think there's enough curiosity and certainly a level of importance. I think anyone that relates to what we're talking about gets it. Tell us how does business get involved, and why is it important for business to get involved? Because obviously, just like we're saying, we're talking about career readiness skills. How can we be globally competitive if these kids aren't coming to us reasonably educated, reasonably prepared for reality? So how does a business get involved, or can a business get involved?
There are tons of ways for businesses to get involved, and let me actually go back because we've been around since like the 1940s here in the state of Georgia. JA has been around since 1919, but for the state of Georgia, we've been around since 1940. And really, this is, to your point, what was happening is a lot of our board companies, and we have about 100 board companies that actually help us make sure that we've kind of moved the mission of junior achievement. They were getting inside of the spaces, and they were just like you said, they were thinking, how do we really make this relevant? How do we really bring this to life for the students that we're working with? Mm. And so about 18 months ago, we actually were like, you know what, let's go ahead and make this happen. And so one of the things I think is most important, and that to me the spirit of Atlanta, is that many places around the nation actually charge for this experience for students, but many corporations for us actually make sure that every child gets this opportunity that comes through JA. So there is no fee for any child to experience this, which for me is absolutely really important because a huge part of financial literacy, in our opinion, is the social capital of that, of having make sure that students get an opportunity to see these experiences and be a part of these experiences. And sometimes finances, the history of their families or whatever it may be, may stop them from having these experiences. And now to know that district-wide kids are getting this is amazing for us. And so what happens is the first layer is that a lot of companies have actually kind of come in and actually sponsor the storefronts. So they've actually come in and made sure that the students could have an experience that looks like an AT&T store, looks like a UPS store. So that's the first level. And then there's also an opportunity for people to actually fund the programming. So the different programs that actually go inside of the classroom, they can make sure that we make that opportunity is provided for them. But more than anything, and I cannot say this enough, so let me pause, volunteers, 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 volunteers. Any company that really feels like, you know what, I'd like to lend my human resources to bringing in our professionals to really be able to help students understand this is who we're looking for in our companies. We're looking for innovative people. We're looking for energetic people. We're looking for civic-minded people. Like, that's how you bring them into the space, again, because we need about 40 volunteers a day to actually come in and help facilitate the learning inside of that space. And it really is life-changing. I visited at one of the simulated cities in Florida, and I remember just having a connection and talking to a child, and you could literally see the light bulbs go off. And for us, that's really how we're going to change the economic futures for our children.
Okay, you mentioned a lot about volunteers. Parents, can parents get involved?
Absolutely. So, I don't have any children personally, but I used to be a teacher, so I feel like I've had like hundreds of kids now, right? And so one of the things I think all parents would agree with is that you could like preach financial literacy until you're blue in the face, or you could try to teach these concepts until you're blue in the face, but sometimes it's that mentor and it's that kind of seeing you outside of the context of mom and seeing you out of the context of dad that will really help the students kind of hammer home all the things that you've been trying to teach at home. And so we welcome parents inside of that environment because they have an opportunity to volunteer and really help their child see them as a professional. Because, you see them as mom, you see them as dad, but now you see them actually giving mentorship and advice on how to, like, spend money and balance budgets and all that other good stuff. So when they get an opportunity to see you outside of yourself, then that's really a great opportunity for you. So we welcome parents to come in and be a part of it, and they would sign up through their local school to actually be a part of that.
Actually, I was just going to ask now, we're quickly running out of time, but we talked about businesses, we've talked about parents, we've talked about volunteers. How does each one of those make contact? How do they get involved? Now, you mentioned the parents of the school. Business and volunteers, do they go directly to you?
Yes. So anyone would want to come through us, and is it okay if I share my information?
Oh, yeah, sure. Absolutely.
So you would go to www.georgia.ja.org, and all of the information that you would need, whether you were a parent or you were a company, they could actually point you in the right direction of how to volunteer and how to do all those things to engage in the process. And then also you would just give us a call, of course, at 404-257-1932, and we will definitely point you in the right direction.
Well, Niambi, I think that there's a lot of people who feel, purpose-driven. They really want to do something to make a contribution, philanthropic, volunteering with churches and other types of activities. I think this one is extremely, extremely valuable. The way you've described it is absolutely engaging and fascinating. I can hear the passion in your voice. I can only think that hopefully that are reaching out through our audience that we can help with gaining some support with businesses and volunteers as well. Niambi, thank you so much for obviously everything that you guys are doing, and especially what you're doing to take up the leadership on the BizTown and finance part. And everything at Junior Achievement. But thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today on Tech Talk.
Oh, thank you, Frank. Really, it can't be without people like you getting the news out about it. Without this kind of a program, we really could not sustain this type of change. So thanks so much.